The Boys is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Despite some of its weirdness and overly adult scenes that actively disturb me to this day, I still always have enjoyed the show, and due to the fact that Season 5 is finally on the way, I thought it was a good time to cover this series once again. But this time we're not going to focus in on Homelander, because he usually overshadows the characters in The Boys so much that almost none of the other ones get talked about in Versus all too much. Which makes sense, Homelander is the most powerful character from the series, but I think other characters deserve some spotlight as well. And that's where we get to one of my favorite characters from the series, Black Noir. Black Noir hits every trope of a character I like, both being mysterious yet cool, being the silent type, but also having a much deeper personality behind him, although depending on if you were reading the comics or watching the TV show, they are to very different degrees. But I am more particularly referring to the show version when I think of this character. And who none other to put him up against than the Team Fortress 2 arsonist himself, the Pyro, both killers of few words, and despite having a bit of a childlike outlook on things, they are still some of the most deadly characters throughout their series, and no doubt some of the most horrifying threats to come across. But who is the more terrifying threat? That's what we are here to find out today, so without further ado, let's take a look at our characters. Starting with Black Noir, there's going to be a couple things I should clarify first. We are only looking at the Black Noir throughout the TV shows, not the one in the comics, since they are so different from each other, and were clearly meant to be different from each other. And we are looking at the first Black Noir in the series, before he was replaced in Season 4, meaning no feats from the second Black Noir will be used. But with that out of the way, let's actually take a look at what Black Noir can do. Starting with some basics, Black Noir has very clear superhuman strength. He is very much stronger than any normal person by a lot, and supes just seem to have enhanced characteristics that just make them above any normal person. And this is shown pretty casually based on the fact that Noir can crush the top of a car just by landing on it. This is a casual exertion of around 5 to 20 kilojoules, which is around the street to wall level ranges of power, and obviously he can do other casual things like this, like being able to throw knives into brick walls, along with being able to fight other superhumans like Kimiko and Starlight pretty casually, which should obviously put him in the higher level ranges. But speaking of his fight with Starlight, he was able to throw her through a concrete wall, a feat that would have required around 1 to 5 megajoules in order to accomplish, and this is a pretty casual thing Black Noir can do, since in the same exact fight he was able to throw her into a stone pillar and completely destroy it to the same degree. And while it is never directly stated, Noir is capable of showing some physical competition to Queen Maeve, based on the fact that she did seem to struggle to hold him down fully without exploiting his allergy to a tree nut. And Queen Maeve is physically tough enough to endure a semi-truck running into her. In fact, it got destroyed by running into her, which is a casual feat that would have been around the 6 to 10 megajoule level ranges. And based on the fact Maeve seemed to struggle more stopping this truck than dealing with Noir, we can say he can definitely scale to this. But believe it or not, in terms of the best things that Black Noir can do, at least in terms of attack potency, he was able to kill Nakib, a character who can cause explosions that can completely fill the inside of small buildings, with this requiring scaling of around 0.72 tons of TNT all the way up to 2.4 tons of TNT. And Nakib can not only survive his own blast casually, but Noir can kill him very easily, meaning that Noir should easily be able to get into around the building to large building level ranges in attack potency. But more impressive than his physical strength is his durability and survivability. Black Noir is easily able to contend with other superhumans like Starlight and take hits from them, with their light blasts being able to blast down metal doors, and again, he was able to easily tank Nakib's explosion. But his most impressive feat actually comes from the Diabolical series, where he was in a chemical plant explosion. Now, while he wasn't at the epicenter of the explosion, meaning he doesn't scale to the full yield of the blast, he was at a distance where he still would have had to endure around 3 to 7.5 tons of TNT, and Black Noir didn't even look phased. which might actually imply that Nikib's explosion is more powerful than what we gave it earlier, since it can do more damage to Black Noir than the chemical plant explosion, but for now, Black Noir should be able to scale to these ranges very consistently. Now let's get into speed. Black Noir is insanely fast. Arguably one of the fastest members in the Seven other than characters like Homelander and A-Train, since he's been directly stated to move faster than a car, which should make his travel speeds anywhere from around 60 to 120 miles per hour. But he can obviously scale to other characters through the series, with these characters being able to react to bullets, and there can be arguments that he can be scaled to Homelander's C4 explosion, not in terms of travel speed of course, but since he can relatively scale to Soldier Boy, who can react to Homelander, who was trying way harder than when he was outspeeding that C4 explosion. That means that Black Noir can get his reaction speed to around Mach 10 to Mach 18. But Black Noir can even potentially scale to the relativistic ranges, since he can scale to characters like Soldier Boy who can block Starlight's beams casually, and even if you don't want to believe that, he is very clearly able to react and intercept Homelander's own lasers, which are comparable to actual lasers in speed, which means Black Noir should still be able to scale to the relativistic to light speed level ranges in speed. And for other stuff we should look at is some of his weaponry. With his weaponry like his knives and blades, that should be able to relatively compare to him in his physical strength, and he has a sleep gas that can instantly put any normal person to sleep, and he carries around explosives with him. Explosives that are literally able to postpone Homelander's own heat vision in the air, with Homelander's heat vision being able to easily tear apart a plane, a feat around 0.3 tons of TNT, and potentially even more, since Homelander is stated that he is able to actually wipe a city off a map, and we can assume his laser vision should be able to scale to this. Although this was a younger and much weaker Homelander with these heat visions, and they were much shorter burst, so it's pretty consistent that we stick with these 0.3 ton TNT level ranges, but it does effectively mean he has small building level bombs in his back pocket. And finally is Black Noir's healing factor and resilience. His healing factor is good enough to repair holes in his hands or arms, and he is even able to survive his skull being caved in and part of his brain missing after getting beaten down by Soldier Boy. So inevitably, Black Noir is quite a powerful force by himself. While he isn't the #1 hero anymore, he is still obviously a potent threat. But let's see how he compares to his fire hazard of an adversary. Now when getting to Pyro, he is absolutely one of the most horrifying characters in Team Fortress 2. And that's kind of the point of his character. He's just a character who's desensitized and gets an absolute thrill from what they do. Although it is debatable if they even understand what they're doing themselves. But they are certainly a powerful threat, since Pyro is pretty consistently within the small building to building level yields, based on the fact he can pretty easily burn down small buildings with his flamethrower. The most standout moment of this is when he trapped a medic in a building and burned it down before he could get out, which would reach a yield of around 0.12 to 0.7 tons of TNT. And this is pretty consistent for a character like Pyro, based on the fact he can take out characters like the Scout, who can take small building level missile assaults, and he can vaporize robots. With the Scout robots, he would have to exert around 0.5 tons of TNT in order to vaporize them, but the robot heavies would actually put his attack potency around 1.2 tons of TNT. So yeah, small building to building is very consistent for a character like Pyro. Although, overall, this should also compare to his durability. With pretty much everything that I have stated, he can pretty much survive, and he was able to take this massive building explosion, which would scale anywhere from around 0.7 tons of TNT to 2.4 tons of TNT. Sounds familiar. But in terms of speed, Pyro is surprisingly fast. He should be able to be compared to lots of other characters throughout his series who can casually dodge bullets, but more impressively is that they can dodge attacks that are laser-based or radiation-based, meaning that Pyro should be able to get to the relativistics to potentially light speed level reaction speeds. But what matters most of all when looking at a character like Pyro is his massive arsenal, which for this fight we are assuming that he has full access to everything that he's been able to use to at least a consistent range. But he has a variety of different weapons, like his classic flamethrower, along with a bunch of other types of flamethrowers, to his axes and other melee weapons, to shotguns, flare guns, even a jetpack, and he even has a weapon that can fire a pure radiation, like the Phlogistinator, with this weapon most likely being better than the actual flamethrower due to the fact that with oomph, basically allowing it to get a constant hit of critical hits in short succession for a short period of time. And Pyro also has weapons that can break you apart at the atomic level, like the Man Melter and the Third Degree Axe. And he seems to be able to control fire without his weapons, based on the fact that he can make a little fire Hadouken and even being able to cause a massive fire explosion with moves like Armageddon. But also, Pyro has the Air Blast, a blast of compressed air that can not only knock back other enemies, but it can also redirect projectiles. And sometimes the projectile weapons can do more damage than what they originally would have done, with using certain weapons like the Afterburner or the Degreaser. And Pyro can even increase his speed a little bit using weapons like the Hot Hand, with him getting a speed boost after hitting something physically with it, just so he can cause even more chaos. So overall, Pyro is an absolute menace. Even with his childlike V1 things, he's still absolutely the most horrifying threat within his series, and most would be completely unlucky to face him. But let's see how our combatants can do when compared to each other. Now taking a look at our two opponents, this matchup is very interesting, and there's a lot of factors to cover when it comes to this matchup, because they are surprisingly even in a lot of factors, yet they do have their clear advantages. And you'll see pretty quickly that when it comes to general power, neither of them necessarily have a big advantage over the other, and while Pyro is definitely more outwardly shown to be small building to building level in terms of attack potency, Noir does scale higher. At least generally he does. And what stands out even more here is that Noir's best attack potency comes from his own physicality, while Pyro's more comes from his weapons, and not generally his own physical strength. And Pyro only gets to his degree over time through how much energy his flamethrower would be exhausting at a time, but it's not doing small building to building level attacks per shot. He generally has to engulf his opponent completely before it even gets close to those level ranges, while Noir is casually exerting this just with his physical strength alone. So he would definitely have the advantage here, and it's kind of a similar case for durability as well. Despite them both being extremely durable and can generally outscale from what they survive pretty casually based on how little damage they actually take from their durability feats, Noir yet again scales slightly higher, not helped by the fact that Noir's physical strength can actually compare to Pyro's own durability, while it cannot be said the same vice versa. So yet again, Black Noir should still be physically tougher. But when it comes to speed though, they are actually roughly equal to each other. Both can theoretically scale to the relativistic to light speed level ranges, even if the levels are a little debatable for both. And at their high ends, they should be dodging similar speed attacks, and neither of them necessarily have a distinct advantage here actually. And while you could technically make arguments on both sides, theoretically at least, I think it's fair to say here that they relatively draw in speed, since regardless they are going to be at the same level. But despite Black Noir's physical dominance, things start to change a lot more when we start looking at their arsenals. And I feel like it's pretty obvious that Pyro has a massive advantage here. Black Noir has a decent arsenal for what it is, but most of his weapons can easily be countered by Pyro in some way, plus the fact he has even more along with that. Because Black Noir's sleeping gas countered by the fact that Pyro is literally wearing a gas mask. His explosions or throwing knives can be air blasted directly back at him, meaning that Noir's only option that won't really be fully countered is his blades, which you would have to get up close to Pyro in order to use in full effectiveness. And Pyro even has some other things that would slow Black Noir's already relatively slow healing factor, since Pyro does have weapons that can lessen healing. And he can theoretically even bypass Noir's healing altogether, since he can attack at the atomic level, with weapons like the Man Melter and the Third Degree, something that Noir has never been shown to heal from before. Plus the fact that Pyro can gain even more speed using the Hot Hand, which would theoretically allow him to have the slight speed advantage, although the effects of the Hot Hand only last a second per hit, but it still theoretically could help. So these two have some pretty standout ways that they can actually take the other out. Noir generally has the physical advantage, and if this were to ever get up real close, then he should be easily able to overpower Pyro, because Pyro's physical strength is nowhere even close to Noir, because as we stated, he only really gets his scaling via his weapons, and while his durability is definitely very good, Noir has the scaling to overwhelm this. But on the other hand, Pyro definitely can be argued because he has weapons that can make durability way less of a factor for Noir. With the Man Melter and the Third Degree, that would completely bypass anything Noir's defenses could handle, especially with the fact that both of these weapons being unlimited use, meaning that Pyro isn't ever going to run out of ammo unless the weapons are destroyed. So you can definitely make the argument for both, and both have win factors, but which one is most likely going to happen more? Because while this matchup is close, there are other categories that can grant a bigger picture of what we are really looking at here. First of all is experience. Black Noir pretty easily has this one in spades. Pyro, while isn't bad and definitely very good at what he does, and he is a definitely pretty decently skilled opponent, but the difference is that he's never fought against someone who's had as much experience as someone like Black Noir, let alone a character who can easily shrug off what his normal flamethrowers can do. Because Black Noir has decades of experience and is a master strategist. He knows his ways around fights and knows how to exploit weaknesses, even against characters who are much stronger than he is, based on the fact how he was able to strategize around a young Homelander. Admittedly, he wasn't really trying to hurt Homelander all that much, and he probably wouldn't have been able to beat Homelander regardless, but he was still clever enough to actually contend with him for a bit, using his gadgets. And again, he's going up against an opponent who is far weaker than Homelander. And while Pyro can blast his projectiles back at Noir, most of those weapons wouldn't really do anything to Black Noir in the first place, due to the fact that Black Noir can definitely take hits from his own weapons, because his durability is just higher than what we've seen his weapons do. But the weapons that Pyro really needs to win can still be pretty easily countered by Noir. The Philogistinator can easily be countered by Black Noir's bombs, postponing the blast, along with pretty much any other weapon he would have, which would include the Man Melter, because lasers, as we've shown before, can easily be countered by Black Noir's bombs. And the weapons that Pyro needs actually don't have the ability to air blast, meaning that Pyro wouldn't always be able to use air blasts at hand unless he had a specific weapon meant to do that. But none of his air blast weapons would be that effective against someone like Noir, at least in comparison to his other weapons. And while weapons like the Third Degree wouldn't suffer immediately from the same issues that stuff like the Man Melter would, the problem is that the Third Degree can only be used up close, which again is not a situation Pyro wants to be in, because at point blank, Noir could easily disarm him and land enough attacks to just take out Pyro right there and then. He only really needs to win one interaction to win this fight, and as we've seen, Pyro doesn't actually do all too well in physical confrontations with opponents that are stronger than he is. And Noir, once he realizes that these weapons can actually do serious damage to him, is not going to go easy on Pyro if he was even going easy on him for some reason in the first place. And as we mentioned before, Black Noir should be the more competent of the two in terms of fighting, based on the fact, again, he is a master strategist, while Pyro has a pretty one-track mindset in comparison, and could probably be exploited rather easily by someone like Noir. And even with Pyro's speed boost with weapons like the Hot Hand, which only lasts a second, This weapon also requires him to get up close in order to use, and doesn't do much damage at all. Meaning, because of Black Noir's experience and physical superiority, along with his resilience and massive pain tolerance, I see him powering through this fight. And while there are higher ends in the Team Fortress 2 series, the problem is that Pyro doesn't really scale to it, because he is very clearly weaker to the higher end characters who can easily take him out, sometimes even in one shot, and he hardly does any damage to them at all other than a bit of chip damage. And again, you can make this argument for Black Noir, who can hurt Soldier Boy, who can scale to Queen Maeve, who can hurt characters like Homelander, and that would still put him in the higher ranges than what Pyro can scale to, even if we did argue he can scale to it, which again, neither of them scale this high, but I'm kind of proving the point. But anyways, this fight is surprisingly close and very interesting to cover. But personally, while Black Noir would definitely struggle, due to his better experience and physical superiority, I do believe that he blows out the final spark of this pyromaniac. And in the end, personally, I believe Black Noir takes this. But what are your guys' thoughts? Do you agree with me, or do you think Pyro should have burned him to ashes? I would love to hear your guys' opinions on this in the comments below, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.